So today we're going to start with design lecture, and we're mainly going to be talking about finding inspiration and how to build a portfolio. So this is really important, especially if you've gotten more interested in design throughout this course and want to display your work. Before we get started, some announcements. So the last homework 10, will be released tonight, and there's no more lab assignments. And this week's lab will be like an office hours for projects. And then as a reminder, you have 2 homework and two lab drops. And then the deadline to submit all assignments or half credit, DSP included, is by Friday, April 30th by midnight PST. And then for the final project, it's due Tuesday, April 27th. And make sure to submit it in the final project submission form. And yeah. So the first thing we're going to talk about is finding inspiration. So what exactly is an eye for design? I think a common misconception is that design is something that kind of comes naturally to people. Like it's something that is just kind of like you understand or you don't. And I think that's really not true. And I think people often dismiss it as just like, oh, I'm not a creative person, or oh, this isn't something that comes naturally to me, and stuff like that. But that's not true at all. A lot of design and things that you might think come naturally to people are based off of kind of like hard work and just overall exposure and familiarity to things. Okay, so here we have like a quote that's like, we dismiss, we say that you're not like a creative person to just like look at your childhood. Like we're all born creative or with the ability to be creative. So inspiration only comes when you're actively seeking it. And you can work on things. Like I think a lot of people think that inspiration just comes when it hits. But that's not true at all. I think it's like you have to be proactive about looking for inspiration. And then to make like a commitment to trying to find inspiration even if you're busy. So to kind of keep working on improving your design skills or like getting exposure to design and things like that, which can overall just help like how like you approach design and how like supposedly like naturally it comes. So yeah, like one thing you can do is like, for example, when you're looking at apps that you or like a website that you just like use every day, for example, this is Lyft, you can really think about kind of, why are things designed the way that they're designed? Like maybe think about why certain colors are used or why certain buttons are on there and the places that there are, and think about the interactions that you're making and why they're designed that way. Yeah, like design is really everywhere around you. Um, and you can gain inspiration by even like just basic common everyday things. So there's like a quote that's like bad artists copy and good artists steal. So it's totally okay to gain inspiration from other people. And a lot of artists do that. They look at, a lot of others' work. So for example, if you're like a designer, you can look at a lot of other different designers' work and understand trends and what's popular and like what type of design is maybe best for whatever application that you're doing. And it's totally okay to take inspiration. There's really like no original ideas in the world. And eventually like ideas cycle around, but it's absolutely not okay to just like blatantly copy something. Like you want to draw inspiration for something and really just kind of like remix it and make it your own and put kind of like your own stamp on it, instead of just like straight off ripping it off. Yeah, and then another thing you can do is when you're designing, like in Figma, for example, like you can put in and drop in different things that you take inspiration from, like into the file to kind of surround yourself with like the ideas that you're thinking about as you're working. Yeah, and it's never right on the first try. Like your work is always a work in progress. So just keep like working on it, and eventually you'll improve and get better. And also like it's easy, I think, as a creative or a designer to kind of not be satisfied with their work, but just know that like be proud of it, even if it's not the best right now. Like when you're working, it means like you're constantly trying to improve. Yeah, so you might be asking like, where do I find examples of good design? So we have like a bunch of resources for you guys here. So right here, you might see some things that we've mentioned before in the course, such as like Dribble or like coolers. But there's like a lot of resources for you to look at for color inspiration or like UI UX case studies or like web design inspiration. And we also have some things such as like the Google Material Design Style Guide, which is the design of like all the Google icons. And then we also have like for every like app or like company, they usually have like a style guide, which is essentially kind of this design systems like the whole company like follows. So if you're interested in any company and you like their design, you can take a look at that and draw inspiration from that. We've linked Ubers here. And yeah, overall, these are just some resources for you to explore on your own time. We also have like, there's a bunch of things for you to read. Like I know in our homeworks, we link like different Medium articles, but there's a lot of other different things, like we've linked them here so you can check these out on your own time as well. And lastly, design isn't just, reading and looking and just kind of like learning about things, like you actually have to apply them. So yeah, you do actually have to design, and that's honestly the best way to get better at it is just with hands-on experience and doing things on your own. And also feel free to like reach out to any of us if you want to talk about design, or also if there's any like designers that you admire and you stumble across their website, they usually have something linked where it's like if you want to chat with them, to shoot them an email. So yeah, feel free to do that and reach out to like people to learn from. And right now we have a video here that we're going to show. It's called The Gap by Ira Glass. I hope you guys can hear this. Let me know if you guys can't hear it.
Julia, I can't hear it.
You can't hear it?
Yeah. Did you share your screen sound?
Where do I do that?
Just on share screen, that button, share sound. It's like at the bottom.
I don't see an option.
To share.
Oh, wait, I see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it says I need to install the Zoom audio device.
Oh. Well, I think it's fine. Just try it now. Sometimes it says that.
Nobody tells people who are beginners.
Can you hear it?
And I really wish somebody had told this to me.
Yeah, a little bit better.
Hmm?
It's like a little better now. I don't know.
Okay. If not, you guys can, okay, since it's not working, you guys can watch this on your own time then. But basically he talks about this thing that's like the gap, and when it comes to creative work between where you are and where you want to be. And yeah, okay, I'll continue. Oh, wait. Okay. Yeah, and then the second part, we're going to talk about building a portfolio for product design. So disclaimer, I am not an expert. This is just what I've like resources that I found over my time kind of like working on like building a portfolio, and things that I've found really helpful and other people have found really helpful. So what is a design portfolio? So it's generally like a body of work that you're really proud of, and usually have 2 to 3 projects that you're really proud of that are like the central focus. And then it's what recruiters will look at in addition to your resume if you're looking for a job. And honestly, it's a lot more important than your resume because it really shows your thought process and how you work and how you design. And let your personality shine. It's honestly just kind of your own space as well. And you can treat it as a design project, honestly, because you really want to think about how people are interacting with it and what you want them to see and what you want to prioritize on there. So what goes in a design portfolio? So you want to have project case studies, which focus on a problem statement. And then there's user research and design justifications. And it should be really easy to scan and overall just get an idea of what you did overall. You could have redesigns. About me page is highly recommended because people, you want people to like know about you. A way to contact you is good. So like your email and then also like your social media handles if applicable. And redesigns are generally just projects where you like maybe want to redesign a feature of like maybe like an app or something or like a website or like maybe like pages or different like interactions on there. Yeah. And where do I put my portfolio? So you can upload if you decide to like code your portfolio through the knowledge that you've learned in this class. You can do like GitHub pages in a domain provider. For example, Namecheap gives college students like a free domain for a year, I believe. Squarespace and Webflow are also really popular. And then a PDF, it's acceptable, but like not recommended. And Wix is like okay-ish too. And then a Medium and Behance should be additions and not your main thing. Yeah. And then you're probably wondering also like, how do I like fill up my portfolio if I like don't have projects that I've worked on? So some examples of things that you can do are like daily UI challenges. There's like a list of prompts and you just like do them. So it's focusing on UI specifically though. There can also be redesigns, like I mentioned before, random product ideas that you come up with that you like design, projects that are done in class. And also I think more recently things have been more like popular are like design-a-thons, and which are like kind of like design competition type of things. And Adobe Creative Jams is like one of them. So it's like they'll give you a prompt and you have like a couple days to work on it type of thing. So if you have trouble like thinking of maybe ideas or things that you want to work on or design, daily UI challenges and design-a-thons would be a good place to work to get started if you want like kind of a direction or a specific prompt given to you. But you also don't need that. You can also just come up with your own ideas to design for things that you want to solve. Yeah, and then when it comes to actually designing, so the tools that are industry standard is Sketch, and then the Adobe Creative Suite, like XD and Illustrator, and maybe Photoshop, but not really, and then Figma as well. And for prototyping, Framer, Origami Studio, InVision, Adobe XD, and Figma are popular to use. And then for visual design, Illustrator, Photoshop, and Procreate are popular to use. So yeah, we've taught you like Figma in the class. Adobe XD is really similar, and Sketch is like pretty similar as well. Sketch is a bit, I think, harder to use personally, but yeah. And then if you have questions about like what to redesign, like if you want to redesign something, think about things that you're like passionate about or interested in. It's a chance for people to like understand you or like see what you're like outside of typical like case studies, and to understand like what your interests are. So yeah, may do things that you're like passionate on, like passion projects and stuff like that. Redesign like things that you're interested in. Redesigns can also come from like, let's say you're just like using something and you have issues with it. Like just like simple things like that. And also when you're redesigning things, make sure there's a purpose in your redesign. And I also think it's good to acknowledge that a lot of work has gone into the existing product, whatever it is, and to like kind of keep that in mind and not like undervalue that. Yeah, and then designing in school at Berkeley. So unfortunately, it's really difficult to get into design classes at Berkeley. And there's no like design major, so you do have to be kind of self-motivated. There are like a lot of student orgs though. We recommend that you check out like Berkeley Innovation, which is a human-centered design consultancy. And then Design at Berkeley is a platform for making design accessible to everyone. And then there's also Innovative Design, which I think focuses more on like graphic design and web design. There's also the Web Design Decal, which you've taken, and then you can also apply. We'll open up forms for like TAing, and as well as any other club that has like web, graphic, or mobile design work. And then you can check out Berkeley Innovation's guide to navigating design resources at Berkeley. And I think the classes link takes you to like a comprehensive list of all the design classes. Yeah, so in terms of events, Berkeley Innovation usually has like an HCD conference. I'm not sure if they actually have that this semester actually, but there was a design-a-thon. Innovative Design also has different like design-a-thon type of events such as Hex, CMYK, and RGB. And then Jacobs also has a speaker series. And then also your major, since there isn't a design major, your major doesn't really matter, to be honest. Like I think there are majors that people tend to go for when they want to go into design, but honestly it doesn't matter that much. Jacobs does have a design certificate. It doesn't correlate specifically to product design or UI UX design. Some of the things are a bit more like physical and not like digital, but that is there. And there's also ISF, which is like you create your own interdisciplinary curriculum. Yeah, so remember the gap after you watched the video since we couldn't get it to play. I remember thinking like it's always, as long as you're making progress, that's good. And it's good, like there will be this gap between where you currently are and what you want to be and like your skills in design and stuff like that. But don't be discouraged, especially since we don't have a design major. These things can totally be done on your own. A lot of people actually really like learning that you're a designer from like a different background than straight design because they like how it can, you know, possibly have you think about different problem spaces differently. And then keep creating and think about why. Like, why are you creating these things? Like what the purpose of designing this is and why you are designing these things. And yeah, just keep like sitting down and messing around with things. The only way to grow is to really keep doing it. And then we have like a giant resource dump. So here are some books that relate to design. If you're like interested in reading more, this website, Cofolios. It's like a website that has a bunch of different like college students' design portfolios on there. So you can like explore places that they've like interned and then like check out their portfolios. And these are nice to see, I think, because these are all people who are like college age compared to like professionals in the industry who usually have more like advanced looking portfolios. And they also have office hours. So if you want to like chat with someone and talk about, you know, career stuff or like design stuff, you can book time with them. And then the next slide, I believe, is talking about ADP list. So ADP list is this website called Amazing Design People List, where you can book and meet different design mentors. So they have like a bunch of mentors that you can book time with and chat to and get like advice on design. And then yeah, these are some podcasts that we think are really good. If you like want to like listen to more about design, if you don't want to read, I guess. And then there's also a bunch of newsletters. So if you want to, I know sometimes it can be hard to proactively like look for things and learn. And it's easier when you just get, you know, sent something that lands in your email that you can just like check out when you have time. So the last one is also actually, in addition to being a newsletter, they're a 3-week, I believe 3 weeks course on product design. So if you're really interested in learning about product design, I would recommend you take a look at that. And then in terms of communities, like I think one of the harder things about getting started is when you don't know a lot of people to reach out to who, you know, may be involved in design or may know more about it. So Design Buddies is a really popular Discord channel. I think they're called channels, right? Where yeah, there's like and a lot of people who are designers are on there. And then also Design at Berkeley, which I mentioned before, is a Slack channel, and people will just post about design events or opportunities, or you can just talk to people about design and get advice and stuff. And then I've also linked to conferences. There's a lot more, but these are just like the top two that came to mind. Config is actually happening recently. It's like Figma's conference, and Adobe Max is like Adobe's, and a lot of different designers will come to speak and stuff like that. So I think if you're interested in learning more about design, it could be valuable to check out. So yeah, good luck on your design journey. I hope this was helpful if you're interested in design or thinking about pursuing a career in design. Yeah, so we'll take a break and then I'll hand it over to Howie for programming.
All right, guys, let us do the programming side. Oh shoot, I just realized the recording was still going. Oh, I gotta cut that out. All right. Cool. So today's lecture is gonna be, or at least for programming, it's gonna be the last JavaScript programming slides or content we'll ever do for this class, because there's only like 1 week left, excluding this week. So today we're going to be learning about loops, arrays, and libraries. And so this is like, it's still a little bit hefty on content wise, but we're at the end. So you guys have made it this far. So good job to y'all. Yeah, so to get started, I'm just going to go through some quick review of last week when we talked about event handlers. I'm going to kind of breeze through this because the content today is kind of long. But remember, we have our document object model, or also known as the DOM, when it is created when our JavaScript, or actually when our HTML page loads. And then JavaScript basically uses this DOM to, I don't know, access different elements on the page and change them, make them dynamic in whatever way that you want it. And you've done this already with your labs and your homework. And so this should be pretty much reviewed. And the DOM is consisted of like many objects in like a tree structure. And so when we do something like get element by ID of like an ID name food list, what we're saying is go into the DOM, or tell the JavaScript to go into HTML DOM and find the element that has the ID food list. And then we'll grab that corresponding element and return it. And so every DOM element, or every object in the DOM, has event handlers, and one of them consists of the onClick function, which means that whenever we click something, do something else. And if you did the homework in the lab, then you probably have a lot of experience with this. And so another thing we can do with JavaScript is that we can modify CSS directly just from JavaScript without needing to add or remove classes. Like it works if you want to add or remove classes, but that just means you have to pre-code the CSS. But we could directly change the CSS itself by doing whatever element in the DOM, .style, any CSS property, like .color, .background color, .text font, or font size, whatever property exists out there, it will work. And then it takes in basically a string value on the other hand of the equal sign. So in this case, for our change color function color, we pass in, when we run it, we pass in a string red, which means that element's background color will change to red when we click on button element. Yeah, and then again, we have a use of anonymous function here, which is basically unique to just the onClick of this button element. No one else can use it because it doesn't have a name and we can't call it again. And this is pretty useful sometimes when when it's a unique function and it doesn't need to be shared. Like probably change color, you can use it for a lot of different things. And again, if you did the homework, you probably know why. Cool, so that was just a bit review about event handlers. And now we're just going to talk about arrays. And you're going to hear me say list and arrays pretty interchangeably when I go through this lecture. For the most part, they're like in CS, you can just say either and it works, but there is a notable difference between the two once you like go into the nitty-gritty details, but for now, lists and arrays are the same thing. And if you have any questions, just let me know. I have the chat open so I could just read your questions and answer them. Yeah, so in JavaScript, an array is a list of values. So now we can represent a lot of different things in one placeholder. Instead of like, oh, one variable is one thing, another variable is another thing. I got to make like 10 variables to have like 10 things. But an array or a list, you could put 10 things or as many things as you want in this structure. And this is how it works in JavaScript syntax. So here, let's just walk through the syntax step by step. The left side of the equal signs, pretty straightforward, is the same thing as what you see with declaring a variable, let whatever variable name, and this will be our list name. But on the right-hand side of the equal sign, it's a little bit different because now we have a lot of things within square brackets, and the square brackets represent an array or an object with multiple things inside. So this is what we can use to represent like multiple elements in one list. And they're declared in these square brackets. And then within each, to like separate each element of the list, we can use commas. So each comma separates each value. So in this case, protein, the string protein is our first element of the list. The second element is the string caffeine, and then the third element is the string bananas. So this is like we have a list of 3 elements, and that's represented by this cart variable. So cart is our list, and it has these 3 things inside. And since bananas is our last item of the list, we don't need another comma afterwards. Otherwise, it's going to error if you have an extra comma but nothing afterwards. So again, no comma at the end after the last element of the list. So yeah, that's kind of pretty straightforward. That's how you represent a list in JavaScript. There are, Hannah asks, can a list contain different data types? And that's a very good question because yes, it can have a string, it can have an integer, it could have whatever inside. And that's what's cool about JavaScript. But I know like Java is like the opposite, where it's like it's strict to one type. So JavaScript, you can put multiple different like types in a list, which is nice. So once we define like cart and our list, what's cool about this object cart is that there's this built-in like attribute in JavaScript, which is called .length. If you call cart.length or whatever your list name .length, it will give you the number of elements or the number of items in that list. So in this case, if we do console.log of cart.length, it'll give us 3 because there's 3 elements in our list, and that's the length of our list in general. So that's pretty useful for what we're going to do later on when we talk about loops and stuff like that. But keep this in mind that we can always have access to the total amount of elements in our list, no matter how much stuff we add. And what's important is, you might know this already, it's a concept called array indexing. In like basically almost every single programming language, we always do 0 index arrays, which means that the first item of an array or a list is not referred by 1, but is referred by 0. So it starts at 0 and then counts up. So the second element is 1, and then the third element is 2. Don't ask me why. I guess like CS programmers just thought it was a cool idea to do something like this, but I don't know. Every single programming language afterwards just followed the same rules. So that's why we call it 0 indexing. So to get like individual elements of a list, let's say I just want to get the first one, then I have to do cart square brackets 0. And that's, again, 0 indexing refers to the first, or 0. The 0th element refers to the first element of our list. So this prints out apples, and then cart of square brackets 1, that gives us the second one. And then cart of 2 is third one. And then if you try anything else like cart of 3, it's going to error out because like there's no such thing, because there's no fourth element, and it's going to break the code. You could also do negative numbers. -1 refers to the last element. -2 is the second to last. It goes backwards. That's just a fun fact. You don't need to know this because we won't be dealing with lists that are so long that you have to go from the back. So yeah. So where are arrays useful? Why did I just show you a new data type that like can hold multiple things? I mean, it's cool, but so far we've literally been only using like document.getElement by ID or like dot query selector, which returns one thing, because one, IDs are unique, and we could probably only get one element out of it. So you probably were wondering in the past few weeks, like classes also exist. Like, how do I get classes, right? And there's actually a function that exists, which I'll show you on the next slide. But it's important to note that an element can have more than one class name, which is very interesting. So how does this work with the concept of arrays? So now I'm going to teach you this new function called document.getElements by class name. Keep in mind that it's plural because document.getElement by ID is singular. A lot of students get this like wrong, and then they come to debug, they're like, I don't know what's going on. And it turns out they're missing an S after the element. So it's plural. So it's .getElements by class name, and then whatever name you want. But instead of this returning one singular element, this returns an array of elements, because multiple elements can have the same class name, right? So this is going to be very, very interesting. So for example, let's say we have this HTML here, and we run this HTML code at the top, let food equals document.getElement by ID. This is self-explanatory. You guys have done this in the past like 3 weeks practice. What this is going to return is going to return this one tag element here, because it has an ID food list and it's unique. But on the other hand, if we say get elements by class name of food item, now there's 3 tags with class name food items. So how does that look like? Or what does food look like when we print it out now? So let's see. If we console.log food, or if we look at it, it's going to be in an array format. So the first item of the list is the first li tag food item of apples. Second one is also an li tag of bananas. Third one is li tag of oranges. So instead of returning one thing like the get element by ID did, get elements by class name returns multiple things in a list format. So this is very important to know. Again, because multiple elements can have the same class name. So a little practice here. This is an Airbnb website listing. What elements do you think might use like classes here, or what elements might use IDs? Just think about it for a sec. Type in chat. I don't know. Remember, IDs are like unique things, and classes can like have like styles that are shared with similar things. So what do you think are you using classes and IDs on this page? Yeah, so Fernanda says ID could refer to a logo. Yeah, a logo is very unique to a website. That's probably the only unique styles you'll ever apply to anything. Like your logo, you probably won't share that with anything else. So that's one thing you could do. What about classes though? Like what things might share like similar styles or the same styles? Anna says class, maybe the images. Yeah, that could share a class, because one, they have the same size for every single image on this thing and the structure. So that's probably one thing that shares a class. Another, you can like make anything a class. This whole one card is a class, because each card is the same structure. It has the same, like, I don't know, you can probably imagine it's like a div with an image, I don't know, header tag, p tag, and then some stars, whatever, another image tag. And that's a class. And then within further, you can break it down. Each image is a tag, each header is a class, each p tag is a class, because all these p tags share like the same font, font size. So these are a lot of things that can share that might use the same class names. And it's important to note this, because like whenever you look at a website, you're not gonna, or whenever you make your website, you're not gonna redo the same styles for like multiple elements. Like, you're not going to copy and paste that code forever. That's just a waste of space. You could just make everything share a class name and then write one CSS selector and they'd share the same thing, which is pretty nice. So now tying this all together with arrays, zero indexing stuff, length of arrays, and then get class name, get elements by class name, we now go into loopy loops, or just loops. So there's a lot of different kinds of loops in computer science. There are while loops, do while loops, for each loops, but for this class, we are just going to learn about for loops. Pretty easy. As you will see in the next coming slides. You don't need to know about any of the other loops. There's also fruit loops. I personally think this one's okay. I do prefer my frosted flakes though. So yeah, I'll eat fruit loops though. But so yeah, a for loop basically allows you to repeat some code until a certain condition is met or for a certain number of times. And so this is like the English way of writing a for loop from code, but this is what the JavaScript code actually looks like. And don't worry, we'll go through every part of this syntax step by step to see what's going on here. So what if like I wanted to print every number between like 1 and 10? Like, I'm not going to write console.log print console.log 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or like, let's say I had to print out 1 through 100. I'm not going to write 100 lines of that. That's such a waste of time. With a for loop, within like 3 lines, I could do all that. Print like 1 through whatever number you want, which is really, really nice because it allows you to get some really, really clean, more maintainable code to use or to just read in general. It's nice to see that. So let's just break it down. The first part, we initialize our for loop with just a for, and then we open things with the parentheses. It's similar to like a function, but now it's always a for that starts in the beginning. Here we we declare a variable. We say let I equals 1. So now we have a variable in the scope of this for loop that starts at the integer 1. And this starting value can be anything. You can start from 100. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. You can choose anything as long as there's a variable that has a starting value. That's what goes into this first section of this, or the start section of this for loop. The second is the condition, like when it should end. So here we say I is less than 10. What this means is that keep repeating this for loop as long as I is less than 10. So you can imagine when we start at 1, 1 is going to make the thing repeat, right? Because 1 is less than 10. So keep repeating until this condition does not satisfy anymore. And then the last part is the repeat section. So how we like make updates to our variable I, we say I++, which means increment I by 1 every time. You can also write it as I plus equals 1, I equals I plus 1, same thing. But I++ is like the shorter form of how you just increment 1 at a time every loop. Otherwise, like if you don't like repeat or do some changes to I, it's going to be an infinite loop and it's going to time out on your, or it's just going to break, because if you leave I as 1, 1 is always less than 10. You just keep printing 1. This loop is just going to continue for the end until the end of time. So you don't want that to happen, which is why we say like there has to be some sort of repetition and some sort of updating factor to I. Here we say I is plus equals 1. So every loop we add 1 to I. So basically these lines of code is equal to this. And I'll just walk through real quick how we go through it. So we declare a for loop, I is 1. As long as I is less than 10, we repeat the loop and then we increment I by 1. So when we go into this for loop the first time, we run this line console.log we print this string counting to 9, 1. And then it'll say counting to 9, 1. And then now we repeat the loop. When we repeat it, we add 1 to I because that's our update factor. And now I is 2, but 2 is still less than 10. So we're just going to keep going and then run this line again. So we print counting to 9, 2, which is this line here. And then now we finish running this line. Then we come back, repeat the loop. We add 1 to I again. Now I is 3. 3 is less than 10. Do the same thing, run the line because we satisfy this condition. We print that out. And we keep going until we reach I is 10. So, and when we add, after we run the line counting to 9, we add 1, which I becomes 10. So 10 is not less than 10. So we exit the loop. No more. We're done. Which is why we only print 1 through 9. Any questions on this? This is kind of like a little bit confusing at first, but once you get the gist, it's like pretty good. Okay, I'm assuming everyone understands this pretty well, hopefully. But again, if you have any questions, just let me know. So just a little quiz for you guys. Here's a for loop. Tell me what this prints out. I'll give you like a second to think about it. And you can type it in the chat. Okay, good job, Fernanda. That's correct. For this loop, we print out everything from 0 to 9 because I starts at 0 and the condition is I is less than 1 and we're adding 1 to I every time, which means that we'll print 9 and then stop there because 10 is not less than 10. So good job. Next one, it's a little bit different, slightly different. What do you think this one prints out? This time we have I think the only difference is I is less than or equals to 10, whereas the other one is I is less than 10. Yeah, exactly. Damn, Fernando, you're on fire. Yeah, so this one's like the same thing, but you print out 10 this time because in the condition when I is 10, 10 is less than or equals to 10. So we do run that loop, but then 11 is not less than or equals to 11, or 11 is not less than or equal to 10. So we print 0 through 10 and then stop there. And then last question, a little bit trickier, but hopefully you guys will understand this. What does this print out? Okay, Hannah says everything in the list. Yeah, basically that's the answer. It's gonna print protein, caffeine, bananas in that order because we go from 0, the 0th index of cart is protein, that's the first item. Then we go to 1, that's the second one, then 2, that's the third one. And then we print those 3 and then end there because cart.length is 3, and then 3 is not less than 3. So we end it there. So it prints out protein, caffeine, bananas in that order. And you guys really need to understand this. It's really important for the homework this week because you guys are going to get to, I actually really like this homework. You're going to get to dress and strip Drake, or we call it the dress Drizzy assignment. You get to see him shirtless. So, it's a good assignment. You guys should definitely try it out. But this is the stuff you'll need, the concept you'll need to know for the homework. So yeah, so that's basically all about arrays and for loops. We'll now move on to the JavaScript libraries part. This is like totally independent from the previous stuff we learned about in the past like 30 minutes. This is like the fun stuff that's not even that hard to know. So JavaScript programming language, it might be hard for you, but it's basically a set of syntax rules that define a logical executable environment. So like this, our computer or this browser renders HTML, CSS, and then runs through JavaScript in a logical way. However, JavaScript libraries are built on top of that, like on top of this language, and act as tools that we can use right out of the box. So like a lot of you guys asked me how you do the typewriter effect in JavaScript or like in your website for your final project. And lucky for you, someone's already coded that for you. An analogy like we really like to use is the use of like pasta shells, or in this picture, macaroni shells. Basically, if you're not gonna make like pasta from scratch, because that takes hella long, and two, I don't have that patience, or nor that skill or knowledge to make that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just probably gonna go to Walmart or something, or my grocery store, to buy pre-made shells, because like, why not? One, they're cheap. Two, like they're made for you for a reason. You could cook pasta within like less than 10 minutes and you could eat. Whereas if you had to make it yourself, that's going to take hours. So that's an analogy I like to say, because it's the same thing with JavaScript. If I wanted to do a typewriter effect on my website, to code that entirely, that's going to take a long time, because like honestly, I don't even know how to do that. But thankfully, someone out there in the world thought, oh, since it's like, I'm sure this is something that everyone's going to use or very commonly used, I'm just going to program it for everyone so that all they need to do is import it and then just write a couple lines and it works, which is great. That's like, they just basically made the pasta shells for us. And all we have to do is just buy it. Or in our case, it's free. JavaScript libraries are free. So there's a lot of different JavaScript libraries that exist out there in the world. I mean, JavaScript's been out for a long time, so you could probably assume that there's anything that you can probably think about probably exists on the website. So I'm going to go through a couple of these, like particles.js. All these have like very cool websites and like demos and instructions, good instructions that you can follow. So particles.js, so you see these floating things, it gives you a demo of like what like you can do with this library. And they've like coded it for you. So all you need to do is import it and make some customizations. Like they have like different customizable stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, let's see, size. Oh, damn. See, like you could customize it and make it look like this. And so like if you go to like the GitHub page, it goes through a lot of the instructions, like usage. Wow, look, index.html. I know what a div is. I know what a script tag is. This sounds very, very familiar. Like, okay, I know what JavaScript is. Do I just copy it? Most likely, yeah. Is that it? I actually don't know. I've never used this, but there's like a lot of different customizable stuff. Like you can see like value, density, color, shape. These are all customizable things you can do. But like the general instructions are here, and you can follow more instructions in like other links, and they have like, yeah, I wouldn't worry about like npm package installing, but that's, yeah. So that's just one of like the millions that exist out there. And I'm going to go over like a few of them and then go over like a demo of how to like import and run it on your own website. So there's Quill, which is you can embed like a text editor, like put in Microsoft Word on your website, and it looks very modern and clean, which is really nice. There's Confetti. You can literally recreate your Berkeley acceptance page for that sense of dopamine rush, adrenaline rush. You know, that was always a good feeling. You can make that website again. There's Plier, which is basically it embeds this cool video player on your website, because the current default video player is just very basic and doesn't look that great. There's Snap SVG. You can import to animate your SVG image files, which is pretty nice too. 3.js is a website that has like hundreds of different JavaScript libraries you can check, and it's really, really diverse, I feel like. And one of them is like the Aviator, which is like this, like, I don't know. I actually never used this, but I guess it's some dude flying in a plane. I guess like a game or something like that you can import into JavaScript if you ever want to make a flying aviator game. There's matter.js, which you can import 2D physics for on your website if you ever have like things that should be falling or like swinging around like a pendulum. I don't know, 2D physics you can import. Like imagine coding all this stuff from scratch. Holy, that would take months, if not years, to like even understand physics. Damn, no, I'm not that smart. Thank God they built this. There's anime.js, which is like advanced animations beyond what CSS animations can already do. So like they have a lot of cool examples on this website, and it's like really, really, really advanced animations. Really cool. There's jump.js, which is like, I know a lot of you guys on your final projects also wanted this, where if you click on a button, it leads you to a different part on the same page. This allows for smooth scrolling to that part. So that's pretty cool to import. Although I heard from previous students, it's kind of hard to understand the instructions, but again, come to office hours and we can probably help you out with that. And then lastly, this is the typewriter effect that a lot of you guys wanted on your website too. It's called Type It. And I'm actually just going to go through a demo right now and go through their website. So let's see, I'm just going to visit their website. It's my first time going. Wow. Oh, cool. This is a really cool animation. Like they even have a thing where like they can go back and fix an error on the thing. Oh, wow. They got a bold and italics option too. That's crazy. But this kind of looks a little bit scary to me, but you know, I'm not going to worry about it for now. I'm just going to keep scrolling down. So this is a simple string. So they have examples you can see. This is like you use like just a regular MTP tag and just copy this code and it should run just like this. You can type multiple strings and this is like the JavaScript for it. And like they have literally all the instructions on their website for you to use. It's really, really simple. There's type into form elements. That's also really nice. Rainbow text. Holy, oh my God. Is this new? I actually did not see this last semester. Well, that's cool. There's dynamic effects where it's like they go back and fix errors. Like that's pretty cool too. And that's some pretty long code, but I mean, it doesn't seem that bad to use. There's fire any arbitrary code. So like waiting. I honestly don't know what that one means, but pause and resume on demand, freeze. Oh, cool. I can just freeze this whenever. That's pretty nice. And yeah, there's a lot of customizations you could do with just this one JavaScript library. That's pretty cool. And wow, they have this easy setup and installation process. Load, number one, load on page, load the script with the script tag. Oh, cool. I know what a script tag is. Let me just open VS Code real quick. I need to, oh shoot. VS Code. Where is it? Okay. I'm just gonna show you guys like how to do it real quick. I'm not gonna style it or anything, but it's gonna be very, very simple of how we run this. So I'm gonna make a new file. Oops. Call that index.html. Save it to desktop. Yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna open a basic HTML file. I'm just gonna put like for all their examples, they had MTP tags for some reason. Do I need to know why? Probably not. So I'm just gonna do like the simple string one. P tag, simple usage. I just copy that. And then I also need a JavaScript file, script.js. And then probably just need to copy this. So I'm gonna go back to the easy installation part. Load the script tag. I'm just gonna copy this line. And I know that script tags go after the closing body tag. And then I'm also gonna link my script.js file because that's needs to load. I wouldn't worry about the npm. Anything that you see with npm installed, don't worry about it. That's a different like package installer, not in the scope of this class. But y'all, as long as you have a script tag for the most part, it should work. And so, yeah, that's it. Let's run it now. Like at least you'll see like this is a simple string part running. Let's open it. Oh, you see that? See that at the top? Let me zoom in and then retry. Yeah, that's it. That's all you need to do. And like something that probably takes super long to code from scratch took me 2 seconds. So that's about it. And there's like a lot of customizations you can do. Speed, or let's say I'll change speed to like 100. So you probably imagine like types fast. Oh, type slower. Oh, that's kind of counterintuitive, but sure. I could probably change my string. I love DD. Wow. Okay. What other things that they show on the website? Loop equals true. Loop is true. It'll probably repeat forever now. I love WDD, go back. I love WDD, go back. It's pretty fun. I mean, you could do a lot of the different things here. I don't know. I'm actually curious about the rainbow text one. Holy crap. Constant new type. I guess I have to copy this structure. Oh, what's important is that this is the selector, because we call this simple usage. Let's say I had it like random name. I'm gonna have to use like the hashtag, because again, hashtag is with IDs, and that's how it's selected. Preferably you should use IDs with this thing. I feel like I don't know how they do it with class names. So hopefully it works, but just try to use ID names. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. Like if I still had the other one, simple usage, it's not gonna work right now because I have a different name. Because it's random name. So let's do random name. Just go back to normal. Yeah. Yeah, let's try to do this rainbow one. I'm actually very curious. It's random name. Oh, is it not gonna do anything? After step, get random color. If I do one string. Wow, that's a bummer. I don't know why that's not working. I mean, you get the gist though, because you see, you know what style.color does. I mean, you don't even need to know what this all does. Just copy and paste code and customize it based on your liking. And it should work for the most part. I don't know why this one's not, but the other one was working with what I did here with I love WDD repeating. So overall, very, very easy to use. And that goes with any of the libraries that exist out there, which is pretty nice. And yeah, knock yourself out. This is all about exploring and having fun. So when I started using this, it was like a whole new world. It's so cool. But yeah, do you guys have any questions about this? Like how to use like libraries, things like that? I mean, I clearly didn't style anything, but if you added CSS and made things nice, that would have been even better. But this is just for the sake of the demo. But yeah. Kind of sad that this one didn't work with rainbow text, but I'll figure it out sometime. Cool. I think that's it for programming. If there's no other questions, you guys are basically free to go. That was our last JavaScript lecture. Do the Dress Drizzy homework. I don't know, have fun. It was a really fun homework for me. But yeah, you get to put different clothes on him. But yeah, you're free to go now. So if you don't have questions, thanks for coming out, guys. Bye.